A millionaire witnesses his maid. Humiliated on a $5 blind date, what he does changes everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain had just started to fall over downtown Seattle, tapping softly against the cafe windows. The place smelled of roasted beans and warm pastries, but the laughter from one corner pierced the cozy air like a knife. At that table sat Lena, a maid who worked at the luxurious Aurora Suites. Her uniform was pressed, her hands still rough from scrubbing floors, and her cheeks flushed with nervous hope. She had saved for 3 weeks just to buy this simple blue dress and afford a small coffee for her blind date. Across from her sat Jake, a man she had met online. He looked at the menu, then at her purse, and smirked. $5? That is all you brought? He said loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear. You should have told me this was a charity dinner. The people at the next table chuckled. Lena's face burned red as she reached for her wallet, pulling out a wrinkled $5 bill. I can pay for my own drink, she whispered. Jake leaned back, grinning cruelly. Oh, no. Please, keep it. You will need it more than I do. She wanted to disappear. The room suddenly felt too small, too bright, too cruel. The barista looked away, pretending not to hear. When Lena stood up to leave, her chair scraped the floor, and the sound echoed like thunder. She left the $5 bill on the table and rushed toward the door, tears already mixing with the rain outside. From another table near the window, a man quietly watched everything. He was dressed simply dark jeans, gray coat, but the calm power in his posture made people move aside without knowing why. Ethan Cole, the reclusive millionaire who owned Aurora Suites, had been meeting an architect there that evening. The meeting was over, but he had stayed behind, half listening, half observing. When the young maid stormed out, something in her eyes, humiliation mixed with dignity, stirred something in him. He noticed the $5 bill left behind, soaked by a drop of coffee. Next to it was her work badge that had slipped from her purse. He picked it up. Lena Morales, cleaning staff, Aurora Suites. Outside, the rain intensified. Through the glass, Ethan saw her walking without an umbrella, arms wrapped around herself. For a moment, he hesitated. He could just leave. It was none of his business. But then he remembered the sound of that cruel laugh, and his jaw tightened. He stood, paid his bill, and stepped into the rain. When he caught up with her near the bus stop, she was shivering, trying to shield her phone from the rain. His voice was calm, low, and certain. Miss, you will get sick walking like that. Please, take this umbrella. She looked up, startled. Her hair clung to her face, eyes wide in embarrassment. No, thank you. I am fine. You are not, he said simply, holding the umbrella over her head. Please, consider it just kindness, nothing more. For a moment, their eyes met. He did not recognize pity in hers, only confusion. She took the umbrella slowly, whispering, "Thank you," and boarded the bus. Ethan stood there in the rain, watching the bus pull away, the umbrella still open in her hands. He looked down at the $5 bill he had kept, now damp but intact, and placed it carefully inside his wallet. That night, from the top floor of his penthouse, Ethan could still hear the rain against the windows. The city lights stretched endlessly, but his thoughts were fixed on that moment, at the cafe, the way people laughed, the way she walked away holding her pride like armor. Some people would call it nothing. To him, it felt like the beginning of something he could not name yet, a test, perhaps not for her, but for himself. And that was the night the millionaire decided he would find her again. The next morning, the city was quiet under a pale gray sky. At the Aurora Suites, the marble floors gleamed, and the air carried the faint scent of fresh linen and polish. Lena walked quickly through the service hallway, her hair still damp from the drizzle. She had barely slept. The scene at the cafe replayed in her mind again and again, the laughter, the shame, the way the stranger had offered her the umbrella without pity in his eyes. She had returned the umbrella to the front desk that morning, hoping someone would claim it. What she did not know was that the man who gave it to her had already walked into her world again. Ethan Cole stepped into the lobby just after 9. To everyone else, he looked like any well-dressed tenant. No one recognized him as the owner of the entire building. He preferred it that way. Years of wealth had shown him that titles changed the way people behaved. He wanted to see the world as it really was. "Good morning, sir," the receptionist greeted. "Do you have an appointment?" "I am here to look at the new renovations," Ethan said simply, his voice calm but firm. "I like to stay close to my investments." "Go?" He walked through the corridors, observing quietly the faded paint in one corner, the flicker of a fluorescent bulb, the soft chatter of maids pushing their carts. Then he saw her. Lena was kneeling on the floor, wiping a spill near the elevator. Her hands moved quickly but carefully. She looked tired, but not defeated. Something about her composure caught him again, that same quiet strength he had seen through the rain. He watched as a manager stormed toward her, his tone sharp. "You missed a spot, Morales. We cannot have stains in front of the guest's elevator." "I am sorry, sir," Lena said softly. "It will be clean in a moment." "Make sure it is. We have the new owner visiting this week." The man turned away without another glance. Ethan stood still, his jaw tightening. The irony did not escape him. The new owner was standing right there, watching a hard-working woman being scolded for a watermark. He waited until the manager left before stepping closer. "You should not let people talk to you like that," he said. Lena startled, looking up at him. Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh, it is you, the man from last night." He smiled faintly. "I told you I would see you again." She hesitated, unsure whether to smile back. "You should not be here. This area is for staff." "I was told you are the staff who keeps this place shining," he said. His voice held no arrogance, only quiet sincerity. "Thank you for that." Quote. Before she could answer, the elevator doors opened, and two guests stepped out, nearly stepping on her cleaning tools. She apologized quickly and gathered them up. When she looked up again, he was gone. Only later did she find a folded note resting on her cart. Inside was her $5 bill, clean, pressed flat, and wrapped in a tissue. Beneath it were 6 words in neat handwriting. "No act of kindness is small." That afternoon, Lena's supervisor called her to the main office. Her heart pounded. Had she done something wrong again? The office smelled of coffee and new paper. The manager handed her an envelope. "There is a letter for you, from Mr. Cole." "Who?" she asked. "Mr. Ethan Cole, the property owner," he said, adjusting his tie. "Apparently he noticed your work. He wants you to assist with the staff coordination for the new Aurora Cares program." Lena froze. "That must be a mistake. I am just a cleaner." Quote. "He said you were exactly the kind of person he needed," the manager replied. "Show up at the conference room at 10 tomorrow morning." That night, Lena sat on her small bed, holding the envelope in both hands. Her apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. She reread the note inside, just a few lines written in black ink. "Miss Morales, I saw how you carry yourself with integrity, even when no one is watching. I would like your help building something that honors that kind of strength. See me tomorrow at 10. Ethan Cole." For a long time, she did not move. Her mother's medical bills were stacked on the table, reminders of the life she was trying to hold together. Could this be real? Why would a man like him care about someone like her? But she remembered the way he had looked at her without pity, without judgment. For the first time in years, she felt that maybe her kindness had not been wasted after all. Outside, the rain began again, tapping gently against the window. Lena pulled the thin blanket over her shoulders and whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I will see what this really means." Across the city, Ethan stood in his penthouse, looking down at the lights of Aurora Suites glowing in the distance. The $5 bill was framed on his desk now, beside a small photo of his late mother. She had always told him that real character is shown in moments when no one is watching. He smiled faintly, remembering the girl with the quiet eyes and the soaked hair. He had seen countless people chase money, comfort, and status, but very few who chose dignity when they had nothing. He took a deep breath and said softly to the empty room, "It is time to bring kindness back where it belongs." Quote. The rain kept falling over Seattle, steady and calm, as two lives unknowingly began to turn toward each other again. The next morning, the conference room on the 30th floor of Aurora Suites was brighter than usual. The walls of glass framed a skyline brushed with sunlight, and the air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and polished wood. Lena stood near the door, her uniform neatly pressed, her hands trembling slightly. She had never been this high up in the building before. The last time she had seen this floor was when she cleaned the hallway after a corporate event. When the elevator chimed, every conversation in the room stopped. Ethan Cole stepped out, dressed in a charcoal suit, his expression calm but unreadable. A few managers rushed to greet him, their voices suddenly cheerful. Lena kept her eyes lowered, unsure whether to speak. When he looked her way, she almost forgot to breathe. He nodded politely. "Miss Morales, thank you for coming," he said. "Please, take a seat." She hesitated. "Sir, I think there has been a misunderstanding. I am not qualified for whatever this meeting is about." Ethan's tone remained gentle but firm. "You are more qualified than you think." He walked to the center of the room and turned toward the staff. "Everyone here knows that Aurora Suites has been successful for years," he began. "But success means nothing if we forget the people who make this place feel human. I am starting a program called Aurora Cares. It will focus on staff welfare, fair treatment, and recognition for those who go unseen." His eyes moved back to Lena. "Miss Morales will assist in designing the foundation of this initiative." A murmur spread across the room. The manager who had scolded her the day before shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Lena's throat tightened. She could not understand why he was doing this, why he would choose her out of everyone. When the meeting ended, she tried to approach him, but he was already surrounded by executives. Before she could speak, he placed a folded note on the table beside her and quietly left the room. Later, during her lunch break, she opened the note. "You once said kindness should not make you smaller. Help me prove that it can make a company stronger." For the rest of the day, Lena worked harder than she ever had. She coordinated schedules, took notes, and learned from the project managers who now treated her with a new level of respect. Yet, she still felt out of place, as though this opportunity belonged to someone else. That evening, she found herself alone in the lobby as the cleaning crew finished their rounds. The marble floor mirrored the golden lights from the chandelier above. Ethan appeared again, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might still be here," he said, handing her one. "How was your first day as a program coordinator?" She took the cup carefully. "Overwhelming," she admitted. "I do not know why you trust me with something so important." Ethan smiled faintly. "Because I have learned that the people closest to the ground see what others ignore. You see what needs to be fixed, not from a boardroom but from the floor." His words made her pause. No one had ever spoken to her that way. They sat down on the bench near the entrance, watching the city lights shimmer through the glass doors. "I thought people like you do not notice those like me," she said quietly. "I used to be one of those people," Ethan replied. "I built things, bought companies, made money, but somewhere along the way, I forgot the reason my mother taught me to work hard. She used to say, if you want to know someone's worth, watch how they treat people who cannot do anything for them. You reminded me of that." Lena looked down at her hands, unsure how to respond. The air between them grew softer, warmer. For the first time, she saw not a powerful man, but someone who carried his own quiet loneliness. When she stood to leave, Ethan said, "Miss Morales, there is something I would like you to know." She turned slightly, waiting. "I did not give you that opportunity out of charity," he said. "You earned it long before you ever knew my name." Her breath caught in her chest. For a moment she wanted to speak, but no words came. She simply nodded, her eyes glistening in the dim light. As she walked out into the cool night, she glanced at the umbrella stand near the door. The one she had returned was still there, waiting. She smiled faintly. Behind the glass, Ethan watched her go, the corner of his mouth lifting in quiet admiration. He knew what he felt was more than respect, though he could not name it yet. All he knew was that the girl who had once walked away with her pride intact had now walked straight into his life and changed the rhythm of it forever. Days turned into weeks, and the Aurora Cares program began to take shape. Every morning, Lena arrived early, with a folder of ideas, simple things that made life easier for the cleaning staff and kitchen workers. A rest area with coffee, a fair rotation schedule, new uniforms that fit properly. Ethan reviewed every proposal personally, often joining her in the small meeting room instead of summoning her to his office. He listened carefully, asking questions, sometimes teasing gently when she grew too nervous to look him in the eye. "It is strange," she said one afternoon, flipping through her notes. "I used to clean these floors, and now I am planning programs for the people who still do. It feels unreal." "It feels earned," Ethan replied. "Do not question that." Quote, "Their working rhythm became effortless. He admired her dedication and her sense of fairness. She admired his calm focus, the way he treated everyone, executives and janitors alike, with the same respect. Slowly, the walls between them began to fall, though neither dared to say it aloud. One evening, as the building emptied for the night, Lena found Ethan still in the conference room, sleeves rolled up, studying a stack of budget reports. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, but when she entered, his expression softened. "You should go home," she said, smiling faintly. "You have been here since morning. He leaned back in his chair. So have you. I do not own the place, she answered. He chuckled quietly. You own a bigger part of it than most people think. The light flickered slightly, and she walked closer to the window, gazing at the city below. You know, she said softly, when you first helped me that night, I thought you were just being kind. I never imagined you were you. Ethan's voice was gentle. Would it have mattered? She hesitated. Maybe. I would have been too afraid to talk to you. Then I am glad you did not know, he said. Sometimes, the best connections start before the truth gets in the way. For a moment, the room fell quiet, except for the soft hum of the city lights outside. Then Ethan stood and handed her a small envelope. What is this? She asked. Your first official paycheck as program coordinator, he said, and a little bonus. You deserve it. Lena opened it slowly, her breath catching. It was more money than she had ever seen at once. I cannot accept this, she whispered. You already did the work, he replied. Take it, and do something for yourself for once. She looked up at him, emotion flickering in her eyes. You do not know how much this means to me. My mother's medication, the rent, this changes everything. Ethan's gaze softened. Then let it change everything. When she left that night, the echo of his words followed her all the way home. The next day, the building buzzed with rumors. Word had spread that the company owner himself had been spending time with a cleaning staff member. Some whispered admiration, others judgment. Lena tried to ignore it, but every hallway seemed to hold a new glance, a new murmur. During lunch, her supervisor approached her, frowning. Miss Morales, a word of advice. Keep your distance from Mr. Cole. People are starting to talk. She stiffened. There is nothing to talk about. He is my boss. Still, appearances matter, the supervisor warned. For both of you. That evening, she found Ethan waiting by the elevators. His expression told her he had heard the same whispers. I am sorry, she said quietly. I never wanted to cause trouble. You have not, he replied. People will always talk. Let them. What matters is the work we are doing. But it affects you, she insisted. Your reputation. He smiled faintly. Do you really think I care what they say? She looked away, uncertain, and the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. They stepped in together, silence stretching between them. When the doors closed, he said softly, Lena, I need you to know something. You are not just another employee to me. You have reminded me what leadership really means. Her heart pounded and she could not meet his eyes. Ethan, please! He stopped her gently. You do not have to say anything. I just wanted you to hear it. The elevator reached the ground floor, and the doors opened to the soft sound of rain outside. She stepped out first, turning back to face him. Good night, Mr. Cole. Quote. He hesitated, then smiled. Good night, Lena. As she walked into the drizzle, the city lights shimmered like liquid gold on the pavement. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel invisible. Somewhere above her, in the tall tower that bore his name, Ethan watched from his office window. The rain blurred everything beyond the glass. But one thing was clear, his life had begun to change the moment he chose to notice the girl with the quiet strength who carried a $5 bill and a world of dignity. The days that followed were heavy with unease. The whispers inside Aurora Suites grew louder, spreading through offices and corridors like smoke. Some said Lena had used her kindness as a way to climb higher. Others called her lucky, while a few called her something far worse. She tried to drown it out by working harder, staying late, and avoiding eye contact with anyone who looked at her too long. But silence could not hide pain. One Friday morning, she walked into the conference room to find Ethan already there, standing by the window. His jacket hung on the chair, sleeves rolled up, expression troubled. You heard the rumors, he said quietly, not turning around. I did, Lena admitted. They do not bother me. Not really. He turned to face her. They bother me. You should not let them, she said softly. People talk because they do not understand what we are trying to do. They will destroy what we have built if I let them, Ethan said, his tone tightening. And I cannot allow that. Lena's hands trembled slightly. Then maybe I should step back from the program, just for a while. Ethan's eyes darkened. No, that is not fair to you, or to what this means. She met his gaze. It is not about fairness. It is about survival. I cannot be the reason they turn your kindness into a weapon. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Finally, Ethan exhaled slowly. If that is what you believe is right, I will not stop you. But know this, Lena. You earned your place here. Do not ever let gossip make you doubt that. She nodded, forcing a faint smile. Thank you, Mr. Cole. He opened his mouth to respond, but she was already gone. By the end of the day, Lena had requested to be transferred back to her previous department. The new coordinator was announced the next morning. She congratulated the replacement politely, then returned to her old uniform and her cart of supplies. The floor polish, the mop, the faint smell of detergent, they all felt familiar, almost comforting. But something inside her had changed. A week later, a gala dinner was held in the Aurora Ballroom to celebrate the success of the company's new initiatives. Lena's job was to clean up after the event, unseen as always. She moved quietly among the tables, clearing glasses and folding napkins as laughter and camera flashes filled the room. She kept her eyes down, but when the host announced the arrival of the guest of honor, her heart stopped. "Please welcome Mr. Ethan Cole, CEO of Aurora Group." Applause filled the hall. Lena froze behind a column, watching him step onto the stage. He looked composed, confident, his presence commanding as ever. But when his eyes swept across the crowd, for a brief moment, they landed on her. It was only a heartbeat, but it felt like the whole world stopped moving. Ethan began his speech, thanking the team for their dedication. Then his voice changed, growing softer. "There is one person who reminded me why this company exists. She taught me that dignity cannot be bought and that real kindness never asks for recognition." He paused, scanning the room. "Tonight I want to dedicate this event to the people who clean our floors, who serve our meals, who make this place shine. You are the heart of Aurora." The crowd clapped politely, but Ethan's gaze never left the far side of the room, where Lena stood half hidden in the shadows. She felt her throat tighten, tears burning behind her eyes. When the event ended, she slipped away quietly, carrying her cleaning tray. But near the service door she found something waiting, a small wooden frame. Inside was her $5 bill, perfectly pressed, with a note beneath it in his handwriting. "For the woman who showed me that compassion is stronger than pride." Her hands shook as she held it. For the first time, she realized that he had not only noticed her but had truly seen her. And while she did not know what tomorrow would bring, she understood one thing clearly. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can echo louder than a lifetime of power. The night of the gala left the entire building glowing with celebration, but for Lena, the applause only echoed like distant thunder. She stood outside in the quiet alley behind the ballroom, holding the small frame close to her chest. The rain had stopped, leaving the pavement slick and shining under the streetlights. She looked at the $5 bill behind the glass, her reflection faint in the surface. That little piece of paper had followed her through humiliation, kindness, and now something she did not dare to name. The next morning she returned to work early. The ballroom still carried the faint scent of perfume and champagne. She began stacking chairs and gathering the last of the tablecloths. As she worked, her supervisor entered with an awkward expression. "Mr. Cole wants to see you in his office," he said. Lena froze. "Now?" "Yes. He said it is important." When she stepped into Ethan's office, the sunlight cut through the tall windows, casting gold streaks across the marble floor. Ethan stood near his desk, hands in his pockets, his usual calm replaced by something heavier. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. Lena kept her voice steady. "If this is about the speech, you did not have to." "It was about you," he interrupted gently. "And I meant every word." She looked down at the floor. "You should not have done that. People will only talk more." "Let them," he said. "The truth will outlast gossip." Her eyes lifted to his. "You do not understand. I am not like you. I do not have power to ignore what people say. They see me as nothing." Ethan stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "They are wrong. I see you, Lena. I see the way you work, the way you care, the way you never give up. You are not invisible." Yuxtat. Her throat tightened. "You do not have to say that." "I am not saying it out of pity," he said. "I am saying it because it is true." Silence filled the space between them, thick with all the words neither of them dared to speak. Finally, Lena drew a slow breath. "I do not know what you want from me," she said quietly. Ethan's eyes softened. "Nothing. Only that you stop believing you are less than anyone else." For a moment, neither moved. Then Ethan reached into his drawer and pulled out a small folder. "These are the plans for the next phase of Aurora Cares," he said. "I want you to lead it." Lena's eyes widened. "Lead it? After everything that has happened?" "Yes," he said simply. "Because you are the reason it exists." Her hands trembled as she took the folder. "I do not know if I can." "You can," Ethan said. "And you will not be alone." Kraut. When she finally looked at him, something in his expression had changed, less distance, more warmth, a quiet certainty. She felt it too, though she could not give it a name. As she left his office, the morning light spilled through the hallway, washing everything in a soft glow. For the first time in a long while, Lena walked without lowering her head. Back in his office, Ethan watched her go, a faint smile touching his lips. The rain had cleared from the skyline, and the city below shimmered like glass. He knew that from this moment forward, neither of their lives would return to what it had been before. Weeks passed, and the Aurora Cares program began to grow under Lena's guidance. For the first time, employees from every department felt seen and valued. There were small but meaningful changes: free meals for night staff, medical support for families, scholarships for workers' children. Ethan watched her manage it all with quiet pride. She no longer seemed like the shy maid who once hid her hands behind a mop handle. She had become a voice for others, and that voice carried weight. But success always draws envy. One afternoon, a financial report landed on Ethan's desk, anonymous, unsigned. It claimed that Lena had mishandled the project's funds, transferring money to an unverified account. The accusation was false, but the damage spread fast. Within hours, whispers began to swirl again. The same voices that once praised her now questioned her honesty. That evening, Lena was called into the executive boardroom. Ethan was already there, his expression unreadable. Across the table sat the company's legal advisor and the head of finance. "Miss Morales," the advisor began, "an irregular transaction was discovered this morning. The amount is small, but we need to clarify its purpose." Lena's voice trembled slightly. "There must be a mistake. Every payment I made was approved by accounting." Ethan stayed silent, watching her. She looked at him, searching for reassurance, but found only the calm mask of a man bound by protocol. "We will conduct a full review," the advisor continued. "Until then, we will need you to step aside from your position." The words struck like a physical blow. Lena nodded slowly, too stunned to speak. She stood, bowed slightly, and left the room. The hallway outside felt longer than ever. When Ethan finally followed, he found her standing by the glass wall overlooking the city, her reflection framed against the fading sunset. "You think I did it," she said softly, without turning. "I think someone wants to hurt you," Ethan answered. "That is not the same as believing me." He hesitated. "I cannot ignore the investigation, Lena, but I will find the truth." Tears welled in her eyes. "You taught me that kindness matters more than status. I believed that. I believed in you." He stepped closer. "And I still believe in you." "Then prove it," she said, her voice breaking. "Prove it before they take everything I worked for." She turned and walked away before he could respond, leaving him staring at the reflection of her fading figure in the glass. That night, Ethan stayed in his office long after everyone had gone home. The city lights shimmered below, distant and cold. He replayed every detail in his mind: the files, the reports, the subtle shift in one employee's behavior. It did not add up. Someone inside the company had planted this lie, and he was determined to uncover who. Meanwhile, Lena sat alone in her small apartment, the folder of project notes on her lap. The same people who once shook her hand now refused to meet her eyes. She felt the weight of exhaustion and betrayal pressing down. But even through the hurt, one thought anchored her: she had nothing to hide. Outside, thunder rolled softly over Seattle. The storm was coming again, but this time she was not the same girl who once cried over $5 and a cruel laugh. This time she was ready to fight for the truth. The next morning, the storm broke over Seattle, rain slanting hard against the windows of Aurora's top floor. Ethan had not slept. He spent the entire night tracing every document connected to the supposed missing funds. At dawn, he found it a forged approval signature, the same one used in 3 other small transactions that Lena had never handled. The pattern pointed to one person, the same manager who had once belittled her in the hallway. Ethan called a private meeting with the finance department. When confronted, the man tried to deny it, but the evidence was undeniable. He had rerouted funds from the charity branch to his personal account and used Lena's name as the cover. Security escorted him out quietly before the workday began. Ethan felt both relief and anger burning in his chest. By afternoon, the news reached the staff. Whispers turned to gasps as the truth unfolded. Lena was called back to the boardroom, the same place where she had stood accused. Ethan was there, waiting. When she entered, her eyes were cautious, her shoulders tense. "It was not you," he said simply. "We found the real culprit. You were right all along." Her breath caught as she stared at him, disbelief turning slowly to relief. "You proved it," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "You asked me to. I could not let you carry a lie that was never yours." The board members offered quiet apologies, but Lena barely heard them. She was still looking at Ethan, her heart full and heavy. "I should thank you," she said softly, "but I do not know how." Close cupped. "By staying," he replied. "Do not let them chase you away again." For the first time in weeks, she smiled small, trembling but real. Later that evening, Ethan found her in the staff lounge, the lights low, the rain still whispering outside. She was staring at the framed $5 bill hanging on the wall. He stood beside her, both silent for a moment. "I almost gave up," she said. "But that small kindness kept reminding me who I was." Ethan's voice was warm. "You were never the one who needed saving, Lena. You were the one teaching the rest of us what strength looks like." Outside, the thunder softened into rainlight. For the first time, peace returned to Aurora Suites. The truth had been restored, and so had something far greater trust. Weeks later, Aurora Suites held a quiet ceremony in the same ballroom where Lena had once stood in the shadows. This time, her name was printed on the invitation beside Ethan's. The event marked the official launch of the new Aurora Foundation, a charity dedicated to supporting workers and their families. Ethan stood on stage, speaking about the company's renewed mission, but when he looked at Lena seated in the front row, his voice softened. "Everything you see here," he said, "began with one simple act of kindness. A $5 bill, a moment of courage, and a reminder that dignity costs nothing but changes everything." Quote, when the applause filled the room, Lena's eyes glistened. She remembered the rain, the laughter, the humiliation, and the man who had seen her when no one else did. After the ceremony, Ethan found her on the terrace, overlooking the city lights. The night air was cool and still. He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with 6 words, "No act of kindness is small." Lena looked up at him, speechless. "I thought we should both wear one," he said, showing her the matching band on his wrist. "A promise. That we will never forget where this started." Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. "Thank you, Ethan, for believing in me." He smiled gently. "You gave me something to believe in." The city shimmered below them, alive with light and possibility. For two people who had once met under a gray sky and a torn $5 bill, the world had finally opened wide, proof that compassion, once given, never truly ends.